Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we are discussing what was a breakthrough model for de Bethune when it first bowed in 2005, the de Bethune DBS, a watch that brought the movement to the fore, an in-house caliber, an unusual shape, an avant-garde sensibility. It pointed the way towards the future, and despite being a successful model by the standards of a company building only a few dozen watches a year, nevertheless, only 183 total watches were built, spread over at least 9 variants, meaning any given variant is an exceptionally rare watch. So this watch is considered to be by many de Bethune collectors, including myself, as a landmark piece for the brand. Now, it's easy to wear and probably smaller than you think. I own the DBD, which is the same case shape and has the same physical footprint. This one in white gold is 42.6 millimeters wide. It's exactly 46 millimeters if you measure hinge lug to conventional lug. So that's the lug-to-lug dimension. And then in terms of thickness, this is quite a bit thinner than my DBD. This is only 11.4 millimeters thick. Although it only has one conventional lug, the other strap is fixed by a bracket and screws. This is a 24 millimeter spacing right here. We're going to throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. My DBD has more going on mechanically, so it's thicker. This watch is quite elegant and slim, so you can see it will fit underneath the cuff quite easily. Inboard of the wrist on both sides, no issues there. You can wear this watch on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. Again, my wrist is 16. It's got a nice weight to it. There's actually quite a bit of precious metal here. With most of the movement visible on the dial side, the case back can be almost solid precious metal. And then taking a look at that case back, you can see it's under a service sticker here, but there is a power reserve indicator for the 6-day power reserve, and you can see that it's actually artisanally decorated, particularly the engine turning on the base plate below. Not a lot of these made white gold. Actually, this is gray gold. So it's a type of white, it's the good type of white gold that's white all the way through and needs no rhodium plating. Taking a quick look at the strap, you can see textile on the top, it's calfskin on the bottom, de Bethune factory strap, and it would almost have to be due to the use of the screw and bracket system. Taking a look at the buckle, you see very similar to what you would find on a DB25, a relatively conventional buckle by de Bethune standards. You can see white gold like the watch. It is de Bethune branded. We have an interesting monoblock case design where the mid case and the bezel are all one piece, so there's no seam between them. These bullet tip or torpedo tip or conical or ogival lugs, whatever you call them, they're one of the company's enduring styling signatures, created on the first de Bethune watch, the DB1 of 2002. They've been present on most models in some form over the years, and they are one of those calling cards of the aesthetic sensibility of the brand. We have a little bit of a step between the case and the lug right here. What's amazing is, even as I run my finger over the seam between the crystal and the case, it's almost intangible. It's so finely fit and flush that I have to look to know that my finger is passing over the seam. It's deeply impressive. The crown is a screw down. The watch is only 30 meters. It's dress watch water resistant, but the crown is a screw down, so there's no accidental interaction between the hinge lug and the crown. And the idea here was sort of the beginning of de Bethune's articulated lug concept. That would later reach its apotheosis in the floating lug, but the beginning of the idea was the DBS. You can also see that it is a remarkably ornate crown. It's not branded. It doesn't sort of oversell itself. This is a very traditional element that Denis Flageolet adopted from pendant watches and pocket watches, but you can see that the knurling and the drilling is very distinctive. Now on the dial side, it should be mentioned de Bethune making its own dials, cases, and movements even at this point, and you know, because when you go to the back, you can see it features the DB maker's mark right there. On the dial side, we have a combination of stripes and then media blasting. So taking a look at the hour track here, you can see it's media blasted. Inboard, it has a drilled minutes track, which looks very cool. And then you can see that there are fired blue titanium cabochons that form the hour indices. We have modified Breguet hands at center. They are fired also to create that oxidized blue color. Taking a quick look at that drilled track for the minutes, you can see that not only has it been drilled, but each individual hole has been beveled, and that the ring itself between the drillings has been snailed. Attention to detail is excellent here. We have stripes, and the stripes that are used are Côte de Bethune at the center. And what this means is that the stripes all the way up and down, mirror each other. So instead of having the dark side of the stripe on the same side of the stripe all the way across, you could see that the dark side and light side of the stripe is consistent from the center out on each side. So it's as though they are mirroring each other. That's the difference between Côte de Genève, which have a uniform shading from one side to the other, and Côte de Bethune, which always mirror each other from side to side. Taking a quick look here, finish is excellent. You can see engine turning on the base plate. It's tight and concentric. We've also got impressive and probably unexpected anglage on the edge of the barrel bridge here. A lot of people don't expect Laurent Ferrier levels of finish on a de Bethune. They think avant-garde design, high-tech engineering, but the decoration occupies an enormous amount of time at the factory. What you can also see is that there's solarization on the barrel caps, and you could see that there's also micro-beveling of the wheels on top. So the ratchet wheels actually feature micro-beveling on their teeth on top of the solarized barrel covers. You can see all the screw heads are polished and that we have jewel sinks that are also beveled. We have mirror polish across the full balance bridge and then satination with beveling for the springs that flank. A little note about this system here. This is an early version of the triple parachute shock protection. You can see that the bridge here is sort of a rectangular cross section, and then it's more like a set of brackets flanking the balance. Later on, it would be rounded. So you can see this is an early version of the system. And what it does is it has these two flanking springs made of steel that flank the Inca block on the balance staff. And the idea is that it improves both durability, so protection against damage, but also chronometry by allowing the outer springs to take up most of the shock, which allows the balance staff pivot to stay centered in its cup more of the time for better timekeeping. Two barrels, self-adjusting, that's patented. The idea is they're manual wind, but you cannot overwind them. Then they endow the watch with a 6-day power reserve. We've got a 4 hertz beat rate. The movement is 30 millimeters in diameter, so it nicely fills the case. You can see that the bridge is beveled on its side, mirrored on its top, and that we have one of Denis Flageolet's ever-evolving de Bethune balance designs below that, a combination of basically two opposing yokes. So anchors on each side, an anchor form. It's non-annular, it's not a wheel. It's like the yoke of an old P-38 Lightning fighter plane. So you can see that the wheel itself is made of titanium. Then there are screws that are used for adjustment. And then we have these platinum masses or platinum bobs on the end. So the idea has always been to maximize the percentage of total mass in the rim for better timekeeping, reduce the impact of temperature change on timing, and then to the extent possible, reduce the impact of aerodynamic drag on timing. Now, another thing you'll see is that the hairspring is irregular in its profile, and that is also patented. So it starts as a flat hairspring. It's cut into two pieces. The outer curve is shaped and then micro-clamped back to the inner coil, and the idea is that it's a centered mass, so it breathes concentrically like an overcoil, but with the shock resistance and the flatter profile of a flat hairspring. Now down at the bottom, we have a globe, or I guess I should say a moon, of half white palladium, half blued steel. When they're attached to create the sphere, they're both silver white. It's then blued over a bed of brass shavings on a metal plate over an oil lamp, and the steel part turns blue and the inert palladium remains white. And this is a 122-year moon phase. It's set using a pusher adjuster on the side. So it's like a perpetual calendar moon phase. It only needs to be adjusted once every 122 years. And you can see it's driven by a bevel gear off the main movement. And it is a beautiful and poetic, and if we may say, fairly true portrayal of a moon, as a flat disk does not portray the movement of a sphere as well as a sphere will, and this watch has that. Artistic statement, a technological breakthrough, a watch that defined the future of de Bethune towards the avant-garde, and a timepiece that gives us what we often dream of, which is the ability to wear the best part of the watch, the mechanical case back, right side up. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.